is Jeff from class. I've seen a lot of you and spoken with a lot of you in our discussion boards in class. And today I'm going to be talking about anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a form of hate, and it is specifically the form of hate that involves attacking or disliking people of the Jewish religion. It dates back over 6,000 years. And there's the accounts of it all the way in the Bible. It's been around since biblical times, and it actually affects all of us, even today. I think this social issue is something that's a very important topic that we all should learn more about by examining the origins and reasons behind it. I also want to look into other ways that we might curb anti-Semitism, or maybe even figure out ways to stop it permanently. So with that said, let's start now. Anti-Semitism, as I said before, is the hate or dislike of people of the Jewish faith. There's been many stories of it in the Bible, as I said. The prevalence of this dates back to the actually very beginning of Judaism. Anti-Semitism was one of the main factors of the Holocaust. Aside from the Holocaust, another big one would be pogroms, and pogroms were the violent raids and massacres and eventually the expulsion of religious Jews. It's actually a Slavic term, and pogrom is a Slavic term, and it entered the English language back in the 19th and 20th centuries to describe attacks on Jews in the Russian Empire in the same era. Another well-known example of anti-Semitism would be what we call the blood libels, and this was a situation where Christians would falsely accuse Jews of murdering Christian babies and using their blood for matzah, and matzah is a Jewish bread that's eaten during Passover. There was also historically claims of Jews poisoning and torturing children. It actually harkens back to a lot of the same libelous statements that were said about Jews back 14th, 15th, 16th, even 17th centuries. So basically, a good way to sum this up would be that Jews were uniquely positioned within society. Usually they were in the financial sector, they were bankers and businessmen, and they were just different enough from the rest of society that they always presented themselves as a good target. A living example of this is Germany. Hitler did this as well. Germany, back in 1930s, Germany had been in a major depression since World War I, and there was really no reason that the Jews had caused any of it. But instead of going before his people and saying, we were defeated in World War I, and because of that our economy's depressed, he instead decided to create a target, something that everyone could unite around and hate. And he picked the Jews. They looked, they're successful. You know, the money lenders, the bankers, they're doing well. They're trying to take over our country. And that really was not the case. You can really connect that to today, where a lot of, I'm not going to go into too much political detail, but where certain people will blame certain individuals or religions or races and try to blame all of society's woes on that particular population. Anti-Semitism is really that. It's the Jews have been around since pretty much the Old Testament, and they were always situated in a way that made them the ideal target for bad actors that wished to either blame a bad situation or pick on someone. They were just, even though from then to today, uniquely positioned to take the brunt of society's woes. So now I'd like to discuss who's impacted the most by anti-Semitism. That may sound like an obvious answer, the Jewish people. And this is true. The Jews, over thousands of years, have had to pick up and leave There are different settlements. In Jerusalem alone, there was the first temple that was destroyed by the Romans, and they had a second temple that was also destroyed. Like I mentioned before, the pogroms and the Holocaust, where Jews were forced to leave or many times even flee, or in other cases they were kicked out against their will by their oppressors. This has greatly impacted the Jewish psyche. Jews have grown to be the persecuted people, and that really imprints itself on even the modern Jewish people. The Jews are known as the chosen people, chosen by God. But at the same time, that can very easily as well be the chosen ones to be picked on. A lot of Jews to this day live in closed off communities. And a lot of that goes back to the persecution of their people. But it goes further than that, and it doesn't just impact the Jewish people. I believe it affects society on a whole. Having hate in society, whether it's hate towards you or hate towards someone else, breeds more hate. The neo-Nazis, for example, based themselves off of the Nazis of Germany, which were, for the most part, against Jews. They were also against homosexuals and gypsies, and as well as anyone that didn't fit society's norms. But it goes further than that. I guess what I'm trying to say is just because the Jews are the target of anti-Semitism and they probably have the most impact from it, having hate in our community, no matter if it's directed at us personally or not, foments more hate, and that is not good for any of us. Others may not be as affected as the Jews are. This leads to an overall diminished sense of security and well-being for all of society, and not just the Jewish people. So now, if I may, let me draw a connection from anti-Semitism to sociology, and more specifically, a topic of sociology that we learned in our class. And there's many deviance. Deviance is behavior that's not overall accepted by society as a whole, and we can definitely see people that practice anti-Semitism can be considered deviant. But something that I think is a lot more interesting to explore as a connection between anti-Semitism and sociology would have to be subculture. And the reason I find subculture very interesting is that there's two sides to that coin. The Jewish community could be considered a subculture, and let's say the neo-Nazis or the anti-Semitists can also be considered a subculture. The definition of a subculture is a group within societies that is differentiated by its distinctive values, norms, and lifestyle. And it's a group within society that openly rejects social norms. Well, I don't think the Jews necessarily reject social norms. They definitely do because of their religion and the laws that they follow. And they're most certainly a group that's within society that has its distinctive values and norms. And I think the same can be said for neo-Nazis or racists or people that are espousing anti-Semitism. The majority of our population in society do not support or agree with that. And because of that, I think they can also be considered a subculture. And that is just one of, like I said, many connections to sociology that anti-Semitism has with sociology in society. Here's another example. Discrimination. And discrimination is defined as sustained by social institutions such as the law, healthcare system, media, and so on. Discrimination is in relation to a particular group or a group member which is determined or influenced or perceived by racial or cultural differences. And I think it's very easy to draw the conclusion that anti-Semites discriminate against the Jewish population and community. So let's talk about some potential solutions here. Obviously, this problem has been around for over 6,000 years, and so that might seem like a daunting task at first. But when we approach it with more of a scientific or sociological point of view, we start to see some similarities with other issues that we deal with day to day within our society. What does hate stem from? A lot of it is the fear of the unknown, the fear of that which is different from you. And I think with that understanding, we can better start to address anti-Semitism. And I think some good ways to address it would be to start having better understanding for people that we do not know and compassion for different groups of people. Another possible solution may be starting to provide therapy and support for the offenders of hate crimes. We in society have the strong urge to just throw offenders in jail. And instead of doing that, where they'll actually just end up meeting and socializing with other hateful people, maybe we can offer diversion programs that can support the offenders and teach them, maybe address some of their underlying issues that drew them into this hateful ideology to begin with. Getting to the bottom of why certain people feel the need to espouse hate, maybe addressing any underlying trauma that may be exasperating that issue with them. It's going to be a complex approach that takes many different facets all falling into place to really address this, because at the end of the day, this is not an issue that can simply be addressed with a couple policy changes. This is something that's systemic and comes from our human nature itself. So this is not something that we can just fix overnight, and that really goes to explain why it's been around for as long as it has. I think it's going to really be, like I said, a complex approach of better understanding. Hateful people or people in these hate groups aren't going to go out looking for these programs, so I think it needs to be better exposed to the average citizen. I think if we had more accessible programs and material in preschool or at a younger age, and we made it part of the national curriculum, I think that would go a long way in demystifying people that are different, such as Jews, and also nipping in the bud any potential hate stemming from the fear of the unknown or the fear of that which is different. And then if we had better treatment for offenders that still ended up espousing this hate and committing crimes, I think that would be a better and more complex approach that could significantly decrease the existence of anti-Semitism. So I would like to thank you for following along in what I hope was somewhat insightful analysis of anti-Semitism and sociology. In conclusion, I just want to reiterate that this issue does not only impact the Jewish community. We are all affected by the hate and harm that is spread by anti-Semitism. And we certainly will all benefit by learning more about it, working to understand it, and working as a community to find practical solutions to eradicate it wherever we may find it. I hope you enjoyed this brief presentation. And until next time, this is Jeff saying love each other a little more every day.